Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's day 4 of EMEA Contenders Trials Mocks. It's been a really long week, but just as much as every day before. It's a gorgeous day to support Tier 2, isn't it?
It's sunny outside. In Scotland, that's a rarity. I don't know about you, I don't know the weather over in Florida, but we don't tend to see a lot of sun. And so I know that's going to be a good sign for these guys. A lot of good Overwatch going to be coming down.
Yeah, and I mean, both of these teams are ready to show us some good Overwatch. You want to tell us a little bit about the stakes of this match?
Yeah, so it's going to be Young and Beautiful currently up against HSL Esports, and unfortunately, there aren't really a lot of stakes at the moment. HSL have not been able to move on through and will not be locking up a spot in Contenders. But if you're Young and Beautiful, you're already in that top seed right now in your group, and so you are looking to extend your lead just a little bit further to really give you the best chance of getting on in.
Yeah, if they end up taking this one, I think that should almost, if not guarantee them the spot, and not to mention the fact that they're already on a really hot streak cover. HSL, there's a little bit of pride in this one. You know, you take down the top seed, you may not leave with a contender spot, but you're sure going to be leaving with a chip on your shoulder.
I mean, you'll be going down as the one team that was able to actually defeat Young and Beautiful, because they're not just on a hot streak, though. They're completely undefeated. These guys have gone for 3 matches and have won every single one of them. So HSL, it's going to be a real tough challenge, but I'm sure more than enough of these guys are ready and raring to go.
Yeah, it hasn't exactly been close for Young and Beautiful. They've come through and outclassed every opponent in front of them, and I think a lot of that comes down to the incredible roster that they've put together. I think their tank line, though, is the real core of it. Dons and Busan have such a good idea of how to play Orisa and Sigma in this meta. They're not playing Sigma like it used to be played, going on some crazy off angles, looking and getting extremely greedy. No, they have this hardcore bunker tank composition that knows when they can and when they can't take space, and it opens up the field for the rest of their team to do so much.
I mean, you have to say it, the roster is stacked. They have so many good players. We've got World Cup players. We've got a kid who's been in Contenders for 4 times now. They have so much power in their roster and so much flexibility as well, because they are just powerful across all of the board. Sometimes when we see strong teams, they're very strong on that front line and only that front line. And as soon as that front line gets pressured, the entire rest of the team just crumbles and goes away with it. But not Young and Beautiful. You have to win that frontline matchup. You have to win that DPS matchup. You have to win the support matchup, because if you leave any of those still alive, they're just going to come back and beat you off point.
I mean, that's what I love about this meta, though. There's so much stress on every single role. Everything from Immortality Field to Swiss Strike cooldown to Dynamite cooldown to Halt cooldown. Everything matters. So having a fully stacked roster like Young and Beautiful do is exactly what you want. HSL, though, they're nothing to scoff at themselves. Coming in, ADM, Vendetta, Sir Gibson, Kage, Barrett, and Snappy. I think Snappy and Barrett's support line is actually pretty strong here and could give them a leg up in the matchup.
It's all about basically keeping your cooldowns and keeping your backline safe enough that they don't have to use those cooldowns. And we know HSL do have a very strong backline, right? Their Batiste play is very good. They tend to have Immortality Field for when the moment calls for it, rather than it being burned out in those early engagements. And that's something that you are going to have to carry into this next match, into this first map, because we're going to be headed off to Busan. And there's going to be a lot of ability management in Busan, because it's a control point door, and once you lose that first point, not only are you losing percentage, you're running behind in the ultimate economy. And no matter what meta we're in, no matter what heroes are going to be picked out of those spawn doors, ultimates are always the be-all and end-all of every single part of Overwatch.
Yeah, and as much as ultimate economy is important, it's especially so on control points. I think the meta composition right now has completely changed the way that you need to play certain maps, because you'll do things like run out of time on escort maps or on a control point map. It gets so much harder to actually flip the ultimate economy in your favor. And so let's kind of start going through Busan here, because every single control point here is going to be offering us completely different playstyle from these teams.
Yeah, so you've got Mecha Base, and Mecha Base is always going to go for that extremely fast pace that we see where teams just try. They either go for the fast pace, they either try and take up that point as quickly as possible and hold it choke, or we have the ring around a Rosie. and you go for that double shield, and everyone just goes from one end of the high ground to the other end of the high ground, waiting for either an amplification matrix to come up first, or an Ashe to be able to get that first opening pick, and then surge forward. And then on the other side of things, you've got Sanctuary. And Sanctuary is a weird one, so because Sanctuary is just so strangely set out. It rewards flankers, it doesn't really reward the entire team sticking together, so you've got to set up that crossfire. But what it means is if you send people away, if you split your team, you're making yourself vulnerable. So you have to immediately be finding value. Otherwise, the team that you're trying to farm is just going to turn around and make a harvest of your composition.
Yeah, there's so many places on Busan where these teams are going to be fighting for one particular area. Sanctuary is one of the big ones. The mini pack on the right side becomes so critical. You see the entire map take place just in that area. Same goes for Mecha Base. On the bridge above the far side of the point, oftentimes you'll see entire fights, entire maps be played out in that one area. And so these teams, they know where they need to take, and it turns into this big game of chicken of how many people do you want to commit to that flank. Like you mentioned, you need to do it to find value. You need to do it to find a way to get a pick and end those fights, because otherwise they're just going to continue to go on. But you send one too many players over there, and then all of a sudden the core of your composition is just going to fall apart.
And we see a lot of teams as well, very strong on certain maps of Busan. If you're very good at Mecha Base, sometimes there is that risk that downtown slips out of your fingers, because downtown is not played like Mecha Base, nor is it played like Sanctuary. You have to have control of high ground. You have to be able to set up either a spam composition with an Ashe, or even sometimes the Widowmaker that we still get to see, perched up in that high ground, looking for picks, looking to pressure out that front line. Or you just go for that bunker up right above the point. You've got your Orisa, you've got the Sigma, you keep the Batiste close to your chest, close to that shield bash, close to all of the CC that prevents them from going down in those fights.
Yeah, all of these maps are going to be giving us really interesting looks from each of these teams. Do you think we're going to see any dive out of either of these? It's something that's kind of been sprinkled in a little bit here and there, right over top, but it's something that you have to execute so perfectly to actually find any success with it up against the double shield that a lot of teams have shied away.
Well, dive is just that feast of famine, isn't it? It either goes extremely successfully and you manage to get that first opening pick, you manage to coordinate 6 players to jump on that Batiste all at once, Immortality Field can't even come out and he's just gone, then you move on to the next and the next and the next and slowly pick apart the composition. Or, and this is the danger at the moment for a lot of teams, dive takes so long to set up. And it takes so long, and you're waiting and waiting for the right moment to initiate because you don't really have sort of the confidence when you've got that Batiste, when you've got that break. You don't have the face damage that you're taking, like we saw in old dive, where Winston's would just peek out, allow the health bars to drop so low to get that Ana closer to the Nano to then initiate the dive with that ultimate. Rather now, you've got to go in completely ultimate-less. And you've got to find that first opening pick. Otherwise, all of that initiation, that massive big old spark, it just sputters straight on out, and all of the time that you've spent, gone. All of your health bars have just been converted into ult charge, and you yourself have absolutely nothing to show for it when you come around for that next fight.
Yeah, now I want to ask your opinion on a specific dive pick here. It's something that we've seen a lot of. It has been the Sombra. Some teams have played it, some teams have shied away from it. Some want to rely on the EMP, some would rather try and build up something like a Dragon Blade. What do you like seeing there? Do you enjoy the Sombra? Is there anything you'd rather see in that position?
I do personally like to see the Sombra because I always feel like she is one of those really hard counters. But that's the personal bias to her. Sometimes, unfortunately, there's just a better option. And at the moment, there's a lot of better options. Because you can run the Sombra and you will have to build up the EMP, but you have to be able to hit that EMP. And right now, when you run the Sombra into that double shield composition, you can't find value because you go for that hack and you immediately get stunned out of it by so much CC. You try and go for the Batiste, you try and burn him low, but the entire team is there and you can't even go for that separation sort of play because he's not going to be walking. He's not going to go for that 1 versus 1. He's going to have 5 other people defending him. And you've just got a dinky little nail gun hoping that you're able to take his head away so you can go for something a little bit differently, right? I would honestly sometimes rather see a Reaper coming out where you've got a little bit more sustainability, you've got a little bit more on the pressure side of things, and you can go after the Batiste, you can go after the front line with far less punishment. When if you get caught out by that CC, you've still got that Ray Form, you've still got that teleportability, whereas if the Sombra gets caught out and you don't have Translocator up, you're dead.
We've seen many a Sombra die before they get to even use their Translocator, so we'll see if that even matters here and whether or not any of these teams want to run dive, HSL is locked in a composition that does not look complete. So let's talk about what Young and Beautiful are running. It seems to be pretty standard outside of that Lucio.
Pretty standard, but you are going to have that Lucio. So this, I feel, is just going to be that initial speed boost out of the gates, and then you're going to swap Luct onto the Brigida for the Shield Bash to counter this dive. And honestly, what HSL are showing right now, they can come out of the gates with. You're going to have Vendetta pumping out so much damage on that Zarya, keeping the backline safe, but even better, you're going to have that bubble for ADM every single time that Winston jumps in. He's got just a little bit more of those seconds to survive the CC that's going to be coming his way.
Yeah, but HSL, they're on a timer. You need to end this fight quickly, or else you're just going to get ground out by Young and Beautiful. Young and Beautiful, though, they're on a timer, and it's at the top of your screen. The control point will unlock, and they're going to need to move here in a moment. If they can't take down the Winston just like that, they're in a bit of trouble, but they're going to be more than comfortable now without a main tank. It's just a Zarya in their way. Young and Beautiful going to be finding their way to the point.
Oh, HSL, because they're running that Zarya, they just don't have the Diva there to protect ADM, so you will have the bubble, but it is only momentary, and you can't really send anyone beside the Winston, the Genji, and the Tracer to go after the front line of Young and Beautiful, or even the back line as well. So HSL are going to be having a real tough time. You can already see Vendetta was hardly able to do anything in that fight, hasn't even managed to breach 20% of that ultimate economy. Now Young and Beautiful in charge of this fight, allowing your kids to get so much damage and already so close to that blade.
Yeah, the Dragon Blade, we often see it come up first in recent times, but finding value with it when it comes up first is actually relatively tricky because it can be stopped by cooldowns if it's just dry. So you kids looking to use this, it's very critical though how much value he gets out of it. And ADM's going to dive in before he manages to get it up. There's a good chance for HSL to find a kill early, and they will. Barretts goes down. Now you have nothing to keep away that dive the next time it comes in. Sir Gibson goes by the wayside as well though, and that is not the pick you want to see.
Young and Beautiful going to be keeping a hold of your kid's blade. And this is something you can use to really threaten HSL, because they don't have anything outside of that sweep dot to deal with it. And Vendetta going down is even worse for HSL. They're going to be staggered out. More time going for Young and Beautiful, more point percentage climbing, and more ultimates coming online for this team. HSL, they've got the nano boost, but Sir Gibson just has not got the blade to see it through.
I mean, it's just insult to injury at this point. Kage chucked the pulse bomb straight into the welcoming arms of Busan as well. Now the dive comes through, but it's not nearly as potent as it would be. Your kid still has the threat of this blade with the bongo being thrown out. He feels like he doesn't even have to use it because they've already found that main tank.
Oh, HSL. They nano boosted ADM, and he had to pop Primal as soon as the dive comes through just to survive. Two ultimates completely gone from the banks of HSL, completely gone from this next fight, as Young and Beautiful are just waiting. Your kid's still holding onto this blade. Busan with the Sigmaplex. These are the two ultimates that can shut this next fight down, though, because HSL, they're not running the Batiste. They're not going to have the Immortality Field. When the gravity hits, it's going to hit hard.
This is a scary proposition for HSL. We said the dive was feast or famine, and I think we know exactly which one it is right now. Here comes your kid, straight for your Ana, slashing and dashing his way on through. Finds himself one, looking for his second, and the kills are coming through for Young and Beautiful, just like we thought they would. The Gravitic Flux, the Blade are just too much to handle at this point. HSL, you've got a Roadhog on the board for Pete's sake. They don't think they can take this one, and they absolutely won't. Young and Beautiful lock it up 100-0.
HSL really needed that Batiste. More than the Batiste, really needed that Immortality Field, because it is just that leg, right? You don't have to worry about building up to a Silent Barrier, building up to a Transcendence. You've got Immortality on a 25-second cooldown, and you can even use it in dive. You can throw that Frisbee in, allows Vendetta, allows ADM just a little bit more mobility, a little bit more confidence when they go for that initial dive. They'll be able to stick around longer, get more cleave damage. We only got to see one Primal coming out from that Winston the entire round. We only got to see one ultimate, really, coming out from HSL's, each of their players. Only able to get one ultimate the entire time around. But this time, it's not going to be the dive. So this time, from HSL, they're going to that double shielding. They're trying to go for this poke damage with Kage on this Ash, but you are going to have to live up to Yona, who's going to be looking to take your head off, all while Dance distracts with this Hammond and sows the seeds of Discord all the way through your composition.
So Young and Beautiful are now the ones swapping things up, but like you said, that Ham's going to be causing a lot of problems. Yona makes those sightlines incredibly hard to avoid, and we have seen Yona's Widowmaker. This can do some serious damage if you let it. The key word being let it, though. I love this approach from HSL. Put yourself into that lower room. You can set up the bunker very appropriately, take away the Widow. Silence ADM, though. He's going way too far forward. Gets his head taken off by Jonah and Khan. Oh, he's giving him the schmovement as well. The Widowmaker is going to get away with their life. And now HSL have to cower back in this room.
They're just stuck inside room. They have to watch as Young and Beautiful manage to pick up that point first. And the second HSL try and escape, there's going to be Yona lining this side up for their heads.
Yeah, this is a very, very scary sideline across, but ADM has to regroup with the team, but they're losing players one by one. They're just being bled out like some sadistic, ritualistic sacrifice. Moxie, it's just not working for them.
Khan is doing so much on this. It's Yona who's reigning supreme right now. Kage is taken up, attention completely drawn away from the other DPS because you're dealing with Dons, you're dealing with the front line of Young and Beautiful, getting up in your face.
There's a stigma back there.
Right for HSL, they're forced to put Sir Gibson onto the Torbjorn, Kage onto the McCree just to keep Dons away from their faces.
That fight was abysmal. That was like watching quick play. There were two people in spawn, one person on point, two people underground. There's a Sigma behind Young and Beautiful for whatever reason. Finally, though, HSL, they regrouped. They have a team composition that makes sense, but it cost them their entire ultimate bank. Now Young and Beautiful, they can come in with the mines, with the sights, with the pulse bomb, and look to do a ton of damage. Vendetta, though, starts off right, takes down Dons, but you can't trace it out with a 2.5-man pulse bomb. The turret goes with it, and now ADM will fall afterwards. Khan's Discord is just allowing way too much damage to come through.
It's the decoy play. Young and Beautiful, they're sending Dons and they're sending your kids in, and they know one or the other is going to find value because you're busy dealing with the Hammond, you're not looking at the Tracer, you're able to get that double pulse bomb kill, and now you can send your kids in, you're not looking at the Hammond, you can put mines all over the point and delay HSL. They will be coming in for Amplification Matrix, and that should be enough to back Young and Beautiful off this high ground and allow this double bunker to set up.
It's going to buy you a couple seconds, but it's not going to save you from this gravitic flux. Yona uncharacteristically missing a shot there, though. With the Sigma ult now out of the way, you can use that Ant Matrix, like you said, start taking space with the double shield. Young and Beautiful don't have the same amount of sustain, but what they do have are these mines. Dance puts them in a very, very uncomfortable position. But HSL, they're already set up on the high ground. Now they can transition to the point, and they're grinding out this fight. They finally have the position. They finally are where they need to be with all 6 members to actually take a fight, Moxie.
Your kids is going to find it so hard as well to get back onto this point because now you've got that Torbjorn set up. Now you can go for the Tracer deterrent and you can already see he's looking for it. Your kids are so achingly close to that pulse bomb, and we know what happened with that last pulse bomb. Though you do not want to burn an immortality field because 2 members got stuck when Young and Beautiful are going to be coming into this next fight with the rally, with all of the aggression in the world enabled on their side.
Yeah, Vendetta has a good opportunity, though, to counter that rally with a perfectly timed gravitic flux. Looks like they want to get aggressive, though, and the rally's immediately canceled. Looks goes down, and so the team will fall with them. A great fight there by HSL.
And a great fight set up for HSL as well, because now they've got the ultimates, but all the while, Young and Beautiful, they actually got the flip going on through, and HSL have to divert resources. Young and Beautiful not able to take advantage of that moment, though they don't have that Lucio, no speed boost, but they are going to be coming in with the Sigma Flex, with this Pulse Bomb, and those two could be devastating. You can have one force out that Immortality Field, put Snappy into that 25-second cooldown, then have the other one come in and pick up all the kills you need.
Well, HSL, again, looking to be very proactive here, looking to end the fight early, but they have the ultimate advantage. They should be confident in that, but no! Immortality Field, be damned, your kids finds a way. In he goes, but up goes the ball. Don's dropped down incredibly low, but this Tracer, he doesn't stop on the pulse pistols. 1, 2, 3, 4 to his name, and a first map on the board for Young and Beautiful.
And Young and Beautiful knew exactly what they needed to do. As soon as that break goes away, all of them focus on the McCree. So those 2 players are out. Do you know what those 2 players provide? A rain check for your kids. The Tracer suddenly gets absolutely unleashed on that point. The McCree's gone, the flashbang, the shield bash gone alongside both the backline and your DPS, and suddenly your kids gets to play. Every single Tracer always wants to be in that moment, though, where there's no CC to stop you, it's overtime, and you're forced onto that point, forced to eat all the damage off those pulse pistols.
Yeah, he's having a great time and a great game so far from Young and Beautiful. They've played the ultimate economy great. They've shown us numerous compositions. Now, how many of those are they running based on HSL's compositions? I don't think it's that many. I think Young and Beautiful were trying to come out of the gate there in the second map and just catch them off guard, and they did exactly that.
I love as well the teamwork that is going into these compositions because there's real thought, right? When you have that Hammond, it's not just to sow the seeds of discourse through the other side. It's so you can pile drive. And when you pile drive a team, suddenly they're lifted above that Orisa shield. Suddenly they're lifted above that Sigma shield. And so the Widowmaker that was initially just shooting into those shields sat up on that high ground, gets a free shooting gallery for a couple of seconds, and we know that Yona can hit their shots. We've seen it in action, and we got to see it in action again today.
Well, now map 2, we're heading to Route 66. The storyline's going to change a little bit here. The doors open a bit more for HSL to run that dive that we saw them at least attempt running on downtown. I'm going to say, though, it wasn't pretty.
And on Route 66, the dive has to be stellar, because you need to take control of high ground as quickly as possible, because the team in control of that high ground pretty much dictates the entire tempo of how the fight goes. To the point now that we are actually seeing teams, I think it was yesterday, a team came in and played a Reaper to bait everyone off the high grounds, meaning that the Genji could go through and pick up all the value. So there's a lot of thought going into all of these ways that you can push that double shielding away from the high ground, because you look at what double shielding comes alongside it, right? You've got that Ashe. Ashe does spam damage. Ashe has dynamite. Ashe has some really powerful firepower with that Viper at her side, where you can get two-tapped if you're a squishy. And that's dangerous. That means that you're risking losing your backline as soon as that fight starts if you go just a little bit out of position. And when you're running dive, when you're right in the middle of the dive fight, where both of your tanks, the off tank and the main tank, the D.Va and the Winston, are secluded behind that Orisa, behind that Sigma, what does that deprive your backline of? Heal.
Yeah, you lose a lot of big tools, but these escort maps have been extremely rough for a number of teams. I think, Mox, you and I have only seen one map you completed all week. Most teams are getting stopped incredibly early because so many of these fights take forever to actually go down. I think a lot of teams need to realize the opportunities that they have, especially when the defenders are moving, because the defenders have to rotate relatively often. They start off on the high ground. They need to eventually go down to stop that cart from pushing. But if they don't move properly as a group, then there's the openings for the dive, like you're talking about, leaving those supports open, catching them out in their rotation. That's the kind of looks that we need to see from these teams, and that's the kind of advantages that they have to take if they want to take this map.
I mean, you also have to remember as well that the defenders, their respawn is so much further away than the attackers. So sometimes it's worth actually going in with a sort of sacrificial lamb play, where you do just enough, you trade it off, you manage to get that one pick, but the defenders, they tend to immediately cower back as soon as they lose a person. They either cower back or they go so aggressively that they have to put in so many ultimates that you can then come into this next fight knowing that you've got a slight advantage above their heads, if momentarily, but one that you can absolutely push all the way.
Well, just like every other Mogs, ultimate advantage, I think, is the number one thing that you said there, right? Every single map in this meta just matters so much, whether or not you have the advantage as far as ultimates go. And Young and Beautiful, they have their own ideas of how they want to do this. Starting off on the relatively standard composition, Kage, though, is looking to give us a Widowmaker, which, you know, Yona has proven his mettle on. Now you've got to match him, though.
Well, you will be attacking, though, from that spawn point, so you can go for the play of Kage looks for that early pick. If you can get that early pick, that is going to be the instant knee-jerk reaction that we talked about. Young and Beautiful will either have to go forward so aggressively that they can then be punished, or they have to move back to give up that space, allowing HSL to get this payload properly moving through. Because you can see Kage's looking for it. He's behind the Orisa shield. But he's not going to spot a Widowmaker out, and he will be sticking with it. Going to be trying to chance that, but that is going to be extremely risky because your kid is going to be looking for that Widow all the way back around that backline.
I mean, this is a ballsy play going for the Widowmaker, but I don't mind it at all from HSL. You've clearly been struggling with everything else. Give yourself some pick potential is not the worst way to go about winning this map, but losing Vendetta, I'll say the opposite about that one.
The Widow comes with a condition. You're not doing as much damage as Yona. You're not constantly pumping it out. It's one good headshot. That's all you need. And it can be extremely hard to set that up, especially if you can't really go for this high ground. You can't freely shoot because you're only going to be finding double shields. You have to take the off angles, but the off angles are going to make you so vulnerable to that Genji attack.
Not to mention the fact that HSL have to make space, but every time they do, Young and Beautiful just push right back into him. Vendetta goes down, traded for you kids, but the tank going down is going to be much more important. Now the Immortality Field is used early by HSL. Young and Beautiful still have so many resources to end this fight, and they're going to do exactly that.
Young and Beautiful getting to hold on. Your kids slowly but surely creeping up to that blade, but if you're HSL, you can come into this next fight with that amplification matrix, buy yourself a little bit of space to get onto this cart, to try and force Young and Beautiful away from holding at the corner.
Young and Beautiful, they're not giving up this corner easily, I'll tell you that much. Even through the Ant Matrix, they're going to hold their ground. Both Immortality Fields used. Busan looks for Gravitic Flux, but doesn't find anything because everything's already dead, Mox.
But that's something, right, for HSL. You managed to burn out 2 ultimates, whereas you yourself, you used your amplification matrix. Kage's going to be off the Widowmaker onto the Astro. A little bit more damage, but Young and Beautiful. They're pressing forward so aggressively. No, they dropped the super shield. Just they think they can hold HSL's spawn.
Did somebody say selfless, Mox? Because I heard somebody say selfless, and they may be punished for it. Looks like HSL are coming through with the couple, but that spawn advantage should be enough to get him back into it, but they're bleeding out players. No, you kids on his own is looking to clutch this one out.
Just holding them one by one. You cannot pass the buffed up Genji and Young and Beautiful. They went so aggressive and they don't get punished for it in the slightest. HSL going to be coming in with a rally. That's a lot of aggression that Young and Beautiful can't really answer back with because you so much in that hold. You've only got an amplification matrix and a bob to fall back onto, and you can already see they know this, they're respecting this, they're giving up the space.
You wanted aggression, here's aggression. They've swapped onto a Reinhardt. Dans is in, and he is in the thick of it. However, the Gravitic Flux just shuts them down. That hammer's not touching anything when you're stuck in the sky. HSL will be punishing even further for their sins. You did not want to be going to the spawn.
Young and Beautiful, they invested the Bob as well. Dans is sticking on this Reinhardt, so it wasn't that initial try and get back to your team faster with that charge mechanic, right? But now it means if you're HSL, your backline suddenly becomes a lot more vulnerable. Because that Reinhardt, if you're not supporting the backline, he's just going to walk past the Iris Shield, walk past the Sigma, and go straight for your Batiste and burn out the Immortality Field, allowing your kids to come in with a blade.
Well, it's a matter of actually getting there. You take so long to approach this composition. The Reinhardt doesn't exactly have the health pool to move in when so much damage is being thrown at him. Not to mention an application matrix from Sappy gonna really complicate things, but they know the Immortality Field's been forced out. You kids can now come in and farm for free with this blade. Only gets one on the Vendetta, but that could be enough to crack open this fight for Young and Beautiful. They have the follow, but so is Sir Gibson finding himself 2 with 1 button press, cleans up a 3rd, and that's gonna be enough to get HSL across the line.
HSL are going to put Reinhardt in of their own because they know Dans was doing so much with that hammer in that last fight that he's pulled up the shadow, and now it's the mind games. Vendetta was off the Sigma, gave up the ult charge, went for the Reinhardt, thought that you'd have to hold the shield up in this next fight to block Dan's shadow, and now he's forced back onto the Sigma, meaning that HSL, they've been pressing forward without one of their shields, meaning they can't take up the high ground where Kage really wants to be sitting right now.
Kage's attempting to take the space up here, but HSL just don't have all that much to work with. Young and Beautiful have set themselves up nicely for this push. They have the double shield, they have all the sustain, and Snappy, I'm sorry, you do not look long for life right now. You look like Tracer food, and Yona's hungry. Cannot finish off the kill, but Bruce is going to come along and do exactly that. Clean up one more for Young and Beautiful.
HSL, they're in danger right now. They're behind in ultimate economy, and they don't have anything beside Barrett's to deal with Yona and to deal with your kids. You need to put some extra form of CC, either the McCree or the Torbjorn, to try and punish Young and Beautiful for putting in an amplification matrix. This team, they are getting so aggressive, and HSL just do not have the tools to capitalize on it.
It doesn't matter how safe you feel. You could be at home in your bed sleeping. Young and Beautiful, they're coming for you. They don't give a damn where you think you are or how safe you think you are. Bruce is now separated from the team in a pretty good position to take out this Bongo, which is going to be a nice reduction of damage. Nice Etho on Yona's Pulse Bomb. Puts things in a little bit of a weird position for Young and Beautiful. They've used a lot of tools to back their way on up, and now Kage can start going off on this Ashe, start hunting down this Tracer as the rest of the tanks fall for YAB.
But HSL, they have to initiate this next fight. Because Dans is so close to that supercharger, and your kids has already got the blade up, and that is going to be bang for your buck if you're able to pull those 2 off. That is pretty much an instant fight win, because Barretts is not going to have that rally to try and cushion HSL's health bars when it comes on through. So you've got the blade, you've got the bob, you have to initiate with one of these 2 ultimates when Young and Beautiful try to come out of the tunnel to buy yourself the time to build up to Vendetta Sigma Flux, so you've got just a little bit of counterplay around that blade.
You know, I definitely think they can use the Bob to attempt to peel for the blade. It's a little bit of a conservative use, and one that isn't perfect, but it's definitely one that you can look for, especially if it's something like a Bongo blade. Going early with the bomb, though, like you mentioned, as well as Sir Gibson's blade, they're going to press that button before your kids even gets the chance to.
And Young and Beautiful, your kids may not have been able to press the button, but Dans did. The supercharges is gone. Your kids' blade will be completely bone dry. In HSL, they're going to have that Sigma Flux to act as an umbrella when it comes towards them, because now you're on the home stretch. Now you have to keep this momentum going, because if you lose a single one of these fights, Young and Beautiful will have the high ground, will have the ultimate economy, the picks, everything they need to poke you down in this war of attrition.
Oh boy, the Grid Flux again is not going to give him the chance. Slams down half of Young and Beautiful onto the ground. However, it's ADM going down. The blade's still up for you kids, but like you mentioned, it's got much to go with it.
Oh, HSL. The Sigma Flux was just a little bit too early. They weren't able to burn Khan's immortality field out, and so now your kids get to completely uncontested put this blade in with this next fight. And if you're Young and Beautiful, you don't even need to invest the Sigma Flux, right? You know it's going to find value, it's going to get you a pick, and all you need to do is keep getting these picks, keep taking that high ground back.
Oh, here comes your kid. He doesn't have much of anything to support himself, but he's finding plenty of value regardless. The blade completely naked, but it's found itself a nice set of two. Khan goes down, but HSL, they're still in this fight. ADM's still up and still taking space.
Snappy was absolutely huge, just jumps onto the roof. Amplification Matrix is in front of himself and keeps healing the Orisa all the way through. So HSL, they're able to keep ADM up, they're able to keep this payload constantly moving. You've got the supercharges, you've got the blade, you've got all of the ultimates in your favor. If you're Young and Beautiful, you've got to come in with a huge rally and get a kill immediately. Otherwise, you might have just lost Route 66.
15 seconds on the clock. You're absolutely right, Max. They want to finish this map. It's now or never. Dash over. Sir Gibson's looking to end it early. Catch himself one. This guy cannot not get value out of his blades. However, with an immortality field in this way, it'll be just that, only one. The rest of his team pumping out damage to try and end it. A huge halt on the 4 as well. So many players from Young and Beautiful pulled straight into the blender. And with that, HSL are going to look to put a stop to this.
In overtime, but they will be able to full push for Route 66. And that, when we were talking about how often we see that payload stopped before it even goes into point C, is absolutely huge in itself. They did such a good job of being able to just come in, keep everyone healed, keep everyone still with those ultimates. So in that last fight, in that overtime, you could just pour everything, including the kitchen sink in. And there was nothing that Young and Beautiful had to fall back onto because they'd been so aggressive with the blade, with the Sigma Flux, both of those invested in the same fight. And then you stuck around just a little bit too long. It started going lopsided. You lost members. You'd already used your ultimates. You had no space, no ground left to stand on. Suddenly, HSL are able to get that full push.
And that's a completely different push from HSL from anything we've seen before. We mentioned that we've barely seen people even complete payload maps, and HSL come and just blast down the doors of Young and Beautiful. Now, Young and Beautiful, they've got to destroy that moniker as well. They need to finish this map, and they need to do it in a pretty timely manner, right? Even with 0 seconds on the clock, beating this map, beating Route 66 in this meta is nothing to scoff at.
It's so hard because these fights, they go on for so long, and they can be clutched out by so many things. Because you've got those supercharges, you've got the Genji, the amount of damage that a Genji does on his own, even without that ultimate, it boggles the mind, duh. He can just pretty much insta-kill any sort of squishy if he sets his mind to it. And Young and Beautiful, they know that they need to do this quickly. They're going to have Dollar go for that initial speed boost just so that they can try and touch this car.
It's not a bad move for them. I'm curious. No, they don't stay on. They're just going to go for the cart touch, try and blitz down these trains, make sure no one's doing anything too cheesy. It's going to be a while before we see a proper fight. HSL are going to try and hold this high ground for as long as they can and then back off on the corner. But with Sir Gibson going down, they're going to have to wait even longer for that one.
You're going to have to just rely on spam damage at the moment. Kage has to come in absolutely huge and trade out a kill in this next couple of seconds. Otherwise, HSL will have to give up ground, will have to give up this fight.
They've already chopped off the high ground. Kage's in a world of hurt right now from Jonah's Viper rifle. It's just getting worse and worse. With one player goes the entire castle in this meta, and HSL are going to crumble.
The Gibson was going very aggressive, was trying to get that blade online. But he goes down, and that means he's behind an ultimate charge. Your kids is already 70% to this blade, and HSL will have nothing apart from that immortality field to try to burn it away with it. And Young and Beautiful, it seems as if at the moment this payload is completely uncontested.
It could reach the end of the point, but Vendetta's going to go up for contest. Already used his kinetic grasp. That means the immortality field's next. HSL have used so many resources just getting in here now. Without that, there's nothing in the way of your kid and his blade finding so much, slashing through everybody, and there's plenty of cleanup damage from the side of Young and Beautiful.
I mean, you say that HSL used so much just to approach that payload, but they used so much to stick on that payload as well. Snappy puts in that amplification matrix, and now you don't have stopping power. You've got the blade, and it's going to have to be huge, and you have to pull it out before Young and Beautiful are able to properly set this up, because they are going to have the Sigma Flex, they're going to have the Bob, and that's the peel that you talked about, where you can just put a Bob in when that Genji is blading, and it means that all of the focus the Genji has that should be on his team, on getting his kills coming through, is forced to focus on saving his own skin.
Young and Beautiful, they're going to take that great push and they're going to turn it into something greater. This ultimate advantage, this is something that we've seen them roll into future points. This is what's gotten them this far. This is what's turned them into such a monster of a team. They've just got to stop this blade from Sir Gibson. It has continuously found value, but putting in so much just to stop him. And that was a lot of ultimates from HSL with all that much value being found.
HSL, they were able to get that blade going on through, but it's not the blade that's picking up the kills right now. It's just the chip damage that you're able to take, because Sir Gibson, still alive, was able to just keep on all the way through the ultimate, still in his skin. As Young and Beautiful, they're still around this payload. They're still waiting for that bright moment of ignition when your kids is going to hit this blade, and it's going to be soon.
This is an ugly fight, Monks. Both teams are completely separated, but Young and Beautiful, they've gotten back together just enough that when the spawns come in, they're going to put themselves at an advantage. Great gravitic flux, though, from Vendetta. Lays down the law of the physics on them, and by no means are Young and Beautiful going to get another chance at that one.
Sigma Flex is great, but Snappy coming in with that amplification matrix was the cherry on top of the corpse pile. Because the Sigma Flex, it lifts everyone up, it puts them below that 50% HP when they hit the ground. Snappy just amplification matrixes and gets to shoot straight up, and he has nothing contesting him, and Batiste does so much damage on his own. He's practically a third DPS. If you're Young and Beautiful, though, you've been holding onto this blade, and it's going to be big. Because you know HSL, they don't have anything besides from this rally to really try and cut through it. Can't get so close to that Bob. Young and Beautiful have to go in fast, and Snappy going down. This should be the ignition the attackers need.
ADM's fallen off the high ground as well, trying to regroup with the rest of their team, but they need to be very careful. Accretion misses onto your kid, who now has free reign, takes down Sir Gibson, who is using a blade of their own. We know exactly who the better Shimada is right now, but HSL have come in and cleaned up the backline because you're trying to come through such a small choke.
Young and Beautiful, they wait just a little bit too long. Kage's able to come into that Bob, and it's able to go on to that small choke. But Young and Beautiful, they still haven't given this up, though. They're still trying to poke damage, and HSL are forced off the low ground onto the high ground, trying to just keep possession of this one because they can't give it up to Bruce, and he'll get so much spam damage. He'll be able to set Jonah up for some really nice shots as well. Kage has to be constantly winning in this Ash duel. The second you lose one of your members of your team, your entire composition feels such a huge absence.
Not to mention the fact that Busan has that gravitic flux and is just waiting for the right opportunity to use it. The rally can be used first, though, from Dala. As they take a ton of space, throw the Bob in underneath them, and this should be enough to finish off HSL and finally crack open this B point.
It did take them a while, though, so if you're HSL, you are quite happy with the hold you were able to just keep Young and Beautiful at bay for, and Vendetta's going to be coming in with this Sigma Flex. You don't necessarily need to get this contest going through, especially because you can actually see Young and Beautiful just guarding up in tunnels, making sure that no one does try for it. But you can supercharge off this next fight, right? You've got those bongos that ADM's going to have in Vendetta, that Sigma Flex. This is all of the stuff you need to just stop the momentum for Young and Beautiful. Take up that high ground and force this team away.
You'd better stop it now, because otherwise there's a bongo blade coming your way, and your kids is looking to give them the opening they need to reach the end of this map. Bongo first, blade up and over. How much can he get is the big question. Finds the first on a Bears, looking for a second. Yoda finishing some members off, but the gravitic flux is going to put a stop to things a little bit late, though, from HSL. Now you're down members. You're struggling to get a grasp of this cart, and that cart's going to continue to roll forward.
And HSL were in such a horrible position when that bongo blade comes through that they had to use the bongos themselves. They had to use the Sigma Flux. Now they're down those two ultimates to try and keep Young and Beautiful from getting this push all the way through with time on the bank to spare.
That time bank is terrifying. You want to stop it right now if you're HSL. Do not let this get any worse. Vendetta is going to do exactly that. Jonah falls, and they're getting way too greedy with this high ground right now. Sir Gibson is going to come through and take away a lot of those separated members' health bars. Now with 2 on the clock, but HSL have a spawn advantage.
And they've got the Bob advantage right now as well, because Young and Beautiful, they've lost Yona. They don't have that Ash, they don't have that ultimate. And now we can see, yep, Kage's going to send that right through, split all of Young and Beautiful away from that payload.
Young and Beautiful so unwilling to just lose a fight, but they have so much grit and so much clutch ability that they can do it however they want to. You kids with a 2-man blade to close things out. The cart rolls towards the end of the map, and with 2.5 minutes they are going to be more than happy with that push.
And HSL are going to be remembering how quickly Point A slipped through their fingers. And they are going to be squirming in their seats right now, though. All of the stuff that we saw on their defense, so Gibson going down that early on with that little blade charge, cannot happen again.
It needs to be a completely different look from what we've seen, because we have to remember how Young and Beautiful held on their defense. They came through, they spawn held for God knows what, 2 minutes? It was not a pretty sight to see. HSL, luckily enough, they clutched out at B and C, but it's getting there. That's been the hard part for them. It's been getting that ultimate advantage, because the second Young and Beautiful, they get one pick, they get one fight, they take the ultimate advantage, and then they take the game based solely off that, not to mention the fact that they fight tooth and nail in every single fight. Their idea of when to disengage is so perfect that they pull back, and like we mentioned, that Ashe in the previous fight, it wasn't there, but by the time that they re-engage, the spawn came in. They have such a good ability to come in and just take so long to lose a fight that they eventually turn it around.
And they back their opponents up into that really tough spot as well, because they're just holding on to ultimates. HSL, when that payload is so close, they were forced into expanding ultimates just to buy themselves a little bit of time. So when the blade came through, you'd already burned through your Bob. You didn't have that peel to try and keep his focus away from the rest of your team. But now if you're HSL, it's another round of Route 66. You've got another chance. This payload needs to go as far as it possibly can, at least through Point A. If you remember how fast Young and Beautiful were able to just blitz through the first part of this map.
Well, this is it. This is your life on the line. We know they're already out of the running, but they have got to find a little bit of pride. And if they want to do that, they need to win this first fight. You need to start coming away with an advantage now. Immortality field, though, used from both sides, and Young and Beautiful remains up, and so will their hold. Everybody else for HSL falls, and now it gets scary.
Oh, 20 seconds on the clock for HSL, and they are not near the ultimates that they need. During Young and Beautiful, they've got the immediate fight win card. You kids is going to have this fight. Look at what Dance is doing. He's just hiding behind this tunnel, hoping that they can go for sort of pincer movement when HSL come calling.
HSL are going to do exactly that, though. They're going to come calling over top. They can collapse onto Don. There's a really big opening for them to abuse, but that's if they don't die to you kids, who's looking to end things before they can even reach the card. Overtime takes down, and Young and Beautiful put a serious stop to HSL and their hopes.
And we talked about it. We said HSL needed to push that card at least through Point A if they wanted to stand any good chance of walking away with Route 66, of taking us to that third map. And the payload, it didn't even get to round that first corner. If you're HSL, it's not time for meta. Duh. It's not time to come in with a composition that takes a very long time to cycle through to one very specific win condition time that you just do not have on your side right now. It's time to come in with something that can just absolutely blitz through double shields. And it's time to come in with that stopping power that is the Mei.
That could be the real difference maker. We have seen in many a match the Mei swap. It may not just be the Genji difference, right? It could just be making space for your tanks, but this does so much, and it's a great opportunity. Kage on the Reaper is really interesting, though. Do you think it's going to work into Young and Beautiful's composition?
So it means that you've got that 1 versus 1 capability, right? The Reaper, he's got that Ray form, he's got a little bit more survivability if he can go, especially if Busan actually sticks on this Roadhog. And if you're Young and Beautiful, you do have time to experiment, to spice up your compositions to see what exactly HSL are running, and then go back to the drawing board and figure out what's best to deal with it. Because that Roadhog, that Orisa Hulk combo, is just not going to be enough right now, because Snappy's just going to be able to fade out of it, Paris is going to just speed boost out of it, so Gibson's going to put a third shield up in front of it, and Kage's just going to Ray form away.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are going to be giving Young and Beautiful trouble, but that halt hook is not to be had. HSL set themselves up straight above spawn, and it's definitely the right move. Now you can collapse in a great wall. Cuts off 3, but Yona's still getting frags regardless. Barretts, what are you doing? You cannot 1v1 that guy. He's been killing you all night. You think he's not going to do it now? Young and Beautiful, they're going to take a leisurely stroll right on under this bridge and send themselves into a winning record.
HSL aggressed. When you're running the Mei, you don't want to aggress. The Mei is always that stopping power. She's always there with that CC, with that wall to separate out the team when they come into her territory. It's not her walking towards them, especially if you've got a McCree like Yona, who just comes and hits first his shot onto the Moira, which means you're down all of your main support, down all of the survivability, your front line is just going to absolutely crumble. And then he's able to just stay alive and calmly and leisurely line up the shots and allow his team to move on to that payload. If HSL had been able to hold just a little bit further back, if they'd been able to wall off anyone and just manage to delay the fight and delay the fight and delay the fight long enough to build up to that blizzard, they would have had a much better shot. They would have had the only shot at being able to keep Route 66 in their favor, but they aggressed far too quickly with a composition that was very much dive, but was very much a famine.
It was a tough match to watch. I'm gonna be honest. HSL, they tried so many things, and Young and Beautiful, no matter what they played, they just have such a strong idea of how to play this meta composition and any of the variants of it that you could really see them run any variation of the DPS, of the supports, of the tanks that they really want to. And they're gonna be feeling very, very comfortable. And honestly, that's what you want to see from a team that's trying to head off into Contenders. Young and Beautiful are making a serious statement right now in Trials. They're definitely a team to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I think if you're going up against Young and Beautiful in the future, you are going to be watching this and squirming because they are very strong. And honestly, we're not seeing a lack of cohesion, and when they fail in fights, it's not mistakes that they're making. It's that their opponents are able to just come out with ultimates and manage to get those picks in those slight little moments. Because Young and Beautiful, the front line's been playing perfectly. The DPS know when to get out, they're not being over-aggressive, they're not dying too quickly, they're still able to quietly build up ultimates, but it's during the team fight rather than the one-on-ones where you risk being taken out early, where you risk getting collapsed upon by the enemy team, the way we saw Sir Gibson go down time and time again on Route 66.
So we know what not to do, and we've had a good example of what to do. Now let's see if these next set of two teams can put that into action. The Ultimates are going up against VASTA in just a little bit, ladies and gentlemen, so keep your eyes on your screens and your butts in your seats. We'll be back with that shortly. And we're back in, ladies and gents. Match 2 of the day and your tour guides through all of this lovely land of T2. It's Mox and I yet again. Vasta Gaming versus the Ultimates coming up next. Mox, how you feeling about this one?
I mean, I think I'm probably less nervous than the two teams right now, Joe, because these guys have not had the easiest run of trials, have they?
No, both these guys are sitting at 0-3. This is a pride match. You know, the other one is risking going down just straight 0-5, and I'll promise you, that's not where you want to be. Neither of these guys are fighting to reach that end point where they reach Contenders. This is all about name. This is all about heart, and these guys are going to be going at it with everything they got. I promise you, this one matters as much, if not more than their first match did.
But if you're the Ultimate, you're looking at that map pool and you're already feeling pretty confident because we got to see these guys in action a little bit earlier in the week, Joe. And both of us can vouch for just how filthy Monk Matter's Widow is when he has the right access to the right sidelines on Busan Sanctuary.
That guy's kinda insane, but like only when his team lets him be. They ran the Widowmaker one time on Sanctuary. He killed everything. And I mean everything in his sights, died to a headshot. It was ridiculous. And then they just never ran it again. They forced onto the Ashe and he did nothing. His team wasn't able to make enough room for him to do anything. He was getting punished on the flanks. The Widowmaker is such a comfort pick for him, and I want to see the Ultimates have the comfortability to allow him to do that. Even on maps where it's not meta or whatever, sometimes, dude, sometimes you're just that nutty.
Well, we talk about the meta and how all of it is focused at the moment around ultimate economy. Widowmaker has never cared about ultimate economy. Widow players know that you win the fight the only way you need to, with a bullet straight through the head of a really key priority target figure on the other side, whether it's that Baptiste, whether it's that Brigitte. If you manage to get one of the supports down a fight early, you've won. You don't have to worry about investing supercharges or Sigma Flux or anything like that. It's all just about buying yourself the space, the sightlines, the high ground to make it just that little bit more comfortable when it comes to lining up those shots. And so the Ultimates, I too share your hopes, though, that we're going to see more of that Widowmaker, that we're going to see the team really lean into that angle. And on the other side, Vasta Gaming, if you're going over to Busan, you have to be ready to split your team's focus. If there is going to be a Widowmaker on the other side, you've got to go against her to make sure your backline stays safe, while also keeping the front line out of your face.
Yeah, and let's talk about what Vasta have to offer, though, right? Looking over on their side, Julo, Explorer, Edis, Sana, Abs, Crisis. This team is not something to throw something at. The Ultimates are definitely going to have some stiff competition. I mean, both of them do have the same record. Someone's got to break here, and it's bound to be a really even match.
I think this is the one where we get to see that free mapper. We didn't get to see it in the first series, but fingers crossed, because more Overwatch is better Overwatch. That's how the saying always goes. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what exactly is going to happen, because obviously we know, we've seen these guys in action. We've seen what these players can do. It's all about how the teams decide to actually adapt. Whether or not the Ultimates try to keep forcing that Widowmaker onto the Ashe instead of going for the DPS. That's finding just a little bit more value, because it does take just a little bit more of an investment from the entire team to actually be able to set up, as opposed to the Ashe pick, where you can just have a little bit more of an ability to stand on your own 2 feet, so as to speak, right? When a Genji comes for your face, the Widowmaker has to run back to her team, has to have that vein of support instantly into her. The Ashe can just coach can the Genji away, survive, not pull healing resources away from that front line, allows your tanks to go just a little bit more aggressively.
Well, we've come into the first map right now, and we're starting off on Sanctuary. This is where we saw Monk Mutta do Monk Mutta things. This is where we need to see the Ultimates gain confidence. This match for them isn't just about pride. It's about finding that confidence to kind of be the team you know you are. They're a team that have a lot of really strong off-meta picks. It's knowing when to flex those and where to flex those that they really need to figure out. But they need to be confident in their ability to run them first.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be really eye-opening as well to see what exactly they're going to be coming out with, because if you do go for that Widowmaker pick, then we know that it is going to be Ultimates, recognizing that this is a map where they are very strong on, if they have Monk Matter on that Widowmaker, recognizing that they're going to be setting up the plays, because this composition, when Monk Matter is able to hit the shots, it's finding so much value. And look at what they're going to be coming out of these gates with, Duo. There's going to be, because like going for that Symmetra just to get the team out of the spawn just a little bit faster with that initial teleporter, but more than likely going to be swapping onto that Tracer, and that means you're going to be buying so much attention away from your Widowmaker. But VASTA, they've done their homework. They know that the ultimates like to have Magmeta on the Widowmaker. They're going to dive straight into her face and not allow her to play the game.
I love this. Edis is already eyeballing the Widow sightlines. You're absolutely right, Mox. They did their homework. They know what's coming. Oh, Sana, you dirty dog! He's going straight for him. Magmeta is not long for life right now. Just 1 bar of HP left on him. Come on, Sana. We've seen you do this before. There you go. Finish him right on off. Give you that 1-man advantage. Take away the win condition. Now the ultimates, their backline's free for the taking. You don't have to worry about that sightline. Sana can very freely farm this team.
VASTA have been watching the ultimates play so much because they knew exactly where Magmeta would be headed. And we can see immediately off the Widowmaker onto the top and going to go for that really high dive counter. But you can still see Gilo. The Torbjorn isn't quite set up. The turret's not there. Not being able to keep the dive off your backline, and everything about the ultimate's composition is just crumbling away into the ether right now, though.
I can really appreciate this composition change, though. The Torbjorn's going to give them a lot of ways in.
I mean, a lot of ways in, sure, but you're going to be aggressing into this dive. You have to be very careful about how you set your turret up. And it's not the dive that you need to be worrying about in this next fight. It is so close to that blade, and Abs on that Ana is going to be there with that nano boost. So much aggression coming out from that Genji with the ultimates not really having the tools to shut him down.
They don't, but what they do have is a lot of time in their hands. VASTA are taking their sweet time going in, but here comes the blade nanoed up, trying to take him down, but it's Sun actually getting there before he can even breathe on them. Regardless, though, the ultimates are going to fall, and VASTA are putting on a fantastic showing right now.
And you've invested Pulse Bomb over that blade combo. It doesn't really matter. Pulse Bomb builds up so quickly. In fact, look at Sauna. 44% to that next Pulse Bomb already. Magmeta
That's gross.
Climbing towards that Molten Core. But it's not the opener the ultimates need to just get themselves onto point, because once they get onto point, this dive is going to be a lot harder to pull off the VASTA. If you can get close to that backline, it's going to be so fragile. But it's just a question of closing that distance. When you're running that double shield, you are so vulnerable in rotation.
Oh, Julo as well, throwing in the Primal Rage, and that's going to make it extremely hard to actually use Sir Maj's amplification matrix. You're just bumping everybody around, finishing them off. 87%. Mox, this is final fight territory. This is the ultimates nearly coming away without even seeing the point.
They need to touch. Kazaz are going to be trying to get that touch onto the Tracer, trying to build yourself just enough time to get antagons. Sigma Flex out, Magmeta's Molten Core. Those are ultimate winning combos if you're able to just buy yourself the space, the time to use them.
Oh, Sanda's opened it up right. Yet another Pulse Bomb. This guy does not take breaks. He doesn't give any either. Kassar goes down. There's more to be followed with. Magmeta will get the Molten Core onto the point, but all it does is take space. The dive's more than happy to leave the point. They're coming for your backline. Eden is looking for value, but the only players that are alive are these 3 sitting up on the ledge. Overtime ticks down, and the ultimates are just going to get out of this map as fast as they can, because that was going to give them nightmares.
I mean, I'm sure you, as well as I do, remember a play that the ultimates, the gauntlet that was thrown at these guys' feet, a Doomfist, trying to get through Anubis point G earlier in the weekend. They dealt with it by putting Magmeta onto the Torbjorn while we were hoping, praying that we would see the McCree. And that was the swap that you needed in that last fight, because Sonar is just completely decapitating your backline, and Edis just clinically cleaning up with all of those blades. Nothing, not even the Torbjorn turret could stop him. You need that flashbang, you need that mobile counter, rather than the static play which can be taken out so easily.
Well, now we actually get to watch a non-mirror composition yet again, but this time Magmeta going onto the Ashe, and honestly, into the dive is going to be a better pick than the Widowmaker. The Widowmaker is just bound to be bullied, but now they don't give up ultimates for it. They can set themselves up, VASTA going for a very early dive, but this isn't necessarily going to guarantee them that much. It's the first one that comes in to take away the tools that they have, but they need to be careful because they're going to lose their own. Eda's in Crisis Fall, and you can't afford to do that on your first set of dive.
Mecha base is so hard to pull dive off competently as well, because look at where the ultimates, they managed to win that first fight, and now they can just bunker up in a corner, or worse, they can make sure that VASTA don't even get this dive through. Choke!
Ooh.
Oh, Abs going down means VASTA are waiting yet again for this next fight, allowing the ultimates to move into choke, and now this dive, it's not going to have the mobility that it needs. You're going to be finding a ceiling. Instead, you're going to have to force the rotation by moving onto point and hoping it's enough for the ultimates to turn their back.
Well, the dive can be just as successful this time, and it will be. Kassar goes down, and that was a good bit of the way to the blade. Now the Ultimates, they have to back away to the point, try and reposition, and this is exactly when VASTA want to go for the second dive. While they're in that repositioning phase, while the DPS are separated away, we see Monkbutta getting taken so low, but he will get the better of Edis as the Primal Rage completely separates the supports away from the tanks. It opens up the field for Avs to come in with a big coalescence. Gravitic Flux trying to clutch it out here from the Ultimates, but they just don't have the precedence when their team's not grouped up.
And they use the Genji Blade as well, 2 ultimates, all for just buying time, buying themselves as much point percentage. But it gets you a scant few little bit of percentage though, and it means that you're just not going to have anything besides from that rally really to come into this next fight with. You may have got 49% on the board, but VASTA can just hold this blade above your head, make sure that you can't see that point for 50% of them are on.
Yeah, that was a very ugly fight from the Ultimates. Not only do you use everything, but now you have to attack with nothing. The Bongo in, their only tool of destruction, but Julo comes in and takes out their only form of damage. Scratches out the bombs, and the 7th members arrive, and he's cleaned up 2. Antigon can now look to finish up the 3rd. The Ultimates have precedence over the point, and they're starting to take it over, Mox.
Taking advantage of the fact that they were running into dive. If it had been double shielding, they would have had such a hard time actually clawing their way back onto the point, but dive is so fragile. When it falls apart fast. And Ultimate's able to get that flip just as quickly. Now Kassar going to be coming into this pulse bomb, and you can see there's not a lot of CC available for VASTA. It's all about delay tactics rather than actually dealing with it, so pulse bomb can be huge.
Pulse Bomb could find some target, but Julo is going to do the exact same thing. This Winston has been heading up a lot of these dives, separating out players beautifully, and has found them another foothold into the fight. Now, VASTA on the low ground, though, the Ultimates have the angle they're looking for. All they need is that 1 kill to get themselves into the fight.
Well, they've got to survive the Diva Bomb first. It doesn't manage to pick up anything, but it's the rest of VASTA's team that are coming alive in the kill feed, and the Ultimates will be pushed back yet. Again, Kassar's still holding on to this pulse bomb, and like we said, it should be huge, right? The only way that it goes away is if Explorer is able to get the defense matrix through. If you can land it onto Crisis, even better. If you can land it onto Abs, since that Mario pops Coalescence, you become such a juicy target. If you can't use that fade ability, you're stuck taking all of the damage.
While the Pulse Bomb can be strong, it's also their only way in, though. Kassar needs to connect with this if they want an opening, but all it does is find a fat load of invulnerability field. Meanwhile, nothing is invulnerable to Edis. His blade picks up 3 for VASTA, who have looked incredibly strong on this dive.
The Ultimates, they're not running CC themselves aside from Chalky Milk on this Brigitte, and so as soon as Edis sees out that shield bash, he can just come in, and he gets free reign of the house, and when you're in that choke, it is perfectly sized, perfectly placed for the Genji to just come through and cut through teams like absolute butter. Kassar's got another pulse bomb though. He's able to do so much. It's not the ultimate that's been finding the value on this Tracer. It's just the sheer power you have to displace VASTA. But it's going to be so hard, especially look what Yulo is waiting for them with the Primal.
Oh, and Julo's done it once before. See if he can do it again. Pick up 2, maybe even 3 members of this team. He needs to separate away a couple, but he's taken so much damage and gets taken down even through that. This is the opening that the Ultimates need. The Sound Barrier is going to be used to try and prolong things here for VASTA, but they're lacking big time with that dive, with the leader, with the Winston no longer being with them. They cannot afford to recontest this point.
And they're going to have to try and touch because it's that overtime wick door. And VASTA, they've got nothing, no strings to their bow whatsoever. The Ultimate's in full control of this fight.
They've got the Pulse Bomb, they have the Self-Destruct. Sana has to be able to connect with this, but it doesn't find anything as the Self-Destruct comes up and over. Julo managing to avoid it, but the rest of their teammates slowly falling one by one. Yes, the dive is good for the stagger, but it's not too great at winning this sloppy fight.
But you managed to get the Batista out of the way, and Julo's able to knock him on command. Slowly but surely, VASTA coming back in with a chance.
They've got one. Julo has to continue to do what he's been doing the entire game and clutch out on this hamster. 3 versus 2 now. It's only the tanks from the Ultimates left. The binds drop onto the point. Antigon finds a massive pick though onto Julo, and now it's a Bongo on the point. They can start to try and flip that point over. Edis with 2! Straight through Kassar and Antigon. That's the opening they needed. The point flipped. Overtime's gonna begin to take over, but it won't even get a touch through. Monkbutta can't get there, and VASTA clutch it out to take 2-0 on Busan.
It all starts, it all falls into place and out of it for VASTA when that Coalescence is able to get Summerjet. As soon as that Batista is gone, Immortality Field is gone, the main brunt of healing is gone as well. And we saw Henningsen was forced back against the wall to drop Supercharger when he's alone. And he's just trying to shield dance his way out of death into the next map of Downtown. But they're just not able to because they don't have that sustain, the support, the cushion to fall back onto. And VASTA clinch it out by the skin of their teeth.
And VASTA, the dive has looked incredibly solid. I think a lot of that comes down to Julo. Julo and Edis have been leading the charge time and time and time again. I did not see a leap I didn't like. I did not see a swift strike I did not like. Many of them ended in kills. They were perfectly positioned. Very often were they just getting in, getting value, not dying, and getting out. I think the only mistake I saw from Julo was going down with the Primal Rage, but outside of that, it was some extremely solid dive from them.
And this is something you can carry through into this next map, because Rich 66, we talk about it. Dive can be very strong on this map, can immediately lock you up that high ground, lock you up that first fight, but you have to be able to coordinate it. Better yet, you have to be able to work around a team that tries to counter it. And something we're not really seeing coming out from the ultimates is the counter. They're just trying to delay the problems, they're trying to just avoid them until they go away on their own. And that can work if it's one Tracer, one stray DPS who's sometimes being a little bit of a problem, but not always getting a pick. Not when it's an entire team.
Whew. The ultimates, they're in a rough spot though, right? We gave them pretty much 1, maybe 2 win conditions coming into this match. Monk Mudda being one of those. You need that DPS star to pop off, but it just hasn't been there because VASTA have so beautifully read. They knew coming into this matchup. I mean, we all saw exactly where Edis was looking the second they rolled up on Sanctuary. The Widow was in a world of hurt. Now you're coming in. Now, too, I'm the Ultimates. I'm wondering, what the hell am I even doing? How can they fix this?
I mean, honestly, you've just got to put counters in. We talk about it. If there's one thing that sends a dive screeching to any sort of stop, it's the Mei. And she works so well because she has that primary fire, she has that CEC. As soon as a dive comes in, a dive is pretty much dead if they're not able to coordinate an exit strategy fast enough. But it's going to be, well, just waiting, seeing what Monk Mudda is going to be locking in with. Kasar's going to be onto the Genji, so you will have just a little bit more pressure. At least when it comes to drawing out ultimates and utility. I mean, like, the Tracer only has that pressure when Pulse Bomb's available. That's the only time we'll see Batiste try to put Immortality Field in when a Tracer comes calling. When a Genji comes through, you put Immortality Field in after a couple of seconds being locked in a room with them.
Oh,
Just ignore that. You know that didn't happen. Sona's been doing such a good job so far.
I thought he was actually going to wait for the grapple cooldown to come back up and go for again. But he's just going to swap back off. And this should be over to the Tracer. Yeah, we saw it do fantastically earlier on. And now VASTA looking to roll with it yet again on the attack. Julo comes in, the dive successful. Kasar falls early. And with that, the rest of VASTA should fall by the wayside. Explorer follows up in this dive composition. You wanted counters, and I am not seeing a Moxie.
Oh, it's the pincer. It's the pincer dive. One goes for tunnel, the rest of the team goes for the front line. You meet in the middle in a massive big old death sandwich. Explorer's gonna fall off the map, but it feels like that's just to get your mech back into this next fight, and you don't even really need it. You're just so close to that blade, being able to do so much damage because Kasar was the one to go down first. The Ultimates don't have that blade, don't have that recontest power on their side just yet.
But they do have those double shield in a nice setup. They don't have any players missing this time. But what they do also have is Julo waiting, lurking for the right opportunity for the dive. This guy has not missed one yet, but Sana falling early. You take away a lot of that clutch DPS potential. And things are getting a little bit hairy here for VASTA. They may just want to back off and wait a minute.
They're just waiting for Abs to come into that nano boost to give Edis a little bit of an oomph for the ultimate, because the ultimate still have that immortality field, but they don't have that crucial rally. It's only going to be there for a couple of seconds to try and shut this Genji down.
Antigone and crew immediately snipe him out of the sky and eats the pulse bomb. Insult to injury here. What a beautiful play by the Ultimates off tank, comboing not only one, but both of the DPS down. This fight is done and over, and it is down to one man.
And along with it is VASTA's ultimate economy. They put in everything to everything that they had available to them. And Antigone, what a play from that Sigma, able to keep the ultimates in this fight, able to keep them in control, not just of A, but now the high ground as well. So the dive has got to go for that really long setup. You can't collapse in on the front line, you can't go for the pincer play because they're not on the low ground, they're just going to poke away from you when you come close.
Well, they've gotten very close, and that poke is beginning to come through, as well as a nice halt on to 3, putting Julo extremely low. You can put in the Bob to continue the pressure afterwards. Abs will put the sleep in, bomb over, doesn't connect onto anything. The ultimates are moving as such a solid group right now, playing this double shield damn near perfectly, Mox.
They managed to get Crisis out, so the dive loses a massive amount of resources. You don't have that aggression, you don't have those armor packs. Instead, you just gotta hope that you're going to be able to just keep buying the time, keep building up to those ultimates. You do actually see Abs invest that nano boost. That's one that you really want back, especially considering the fact that they're running that Winston. You could have put the nano onto the Winston, sent him onto the high ground. That is all the deterrent a team needs, especially if it's that double shielding, to just immediately eject themselves from that space. And now Edis, he's going to have to come in as well, this domino effect with this dry blade. The play that you can go for Regilo pops Primal and tries to juggle everyone on the side of ultimates out of this immortality field, but that is going to take quite a while to set up, and your Winston is going to be so very exposed because you can see Kasai, he's just waiting with a blade of his own.
I'm watching the pulse bomb as well from Sana, though, and getting onto the high ground is actually the hard part here for the Tracer. The stick goes through, but he gets taken down by Monkmutta early on in the fight. Now Monkmutta, so many resources have been put into him that the Gravitic Flux is just going to go onto the back line. Abs falls down, nice armor pack to keep them alive, but this Ana not long for life. In the meantime, though, Kassar is taking down your tanks one by one since they no longer have an Ana.
And Vasta no longer have any sort of play to set Edis up with this blade, and we know it's overtime. You don't even get to use it right now. The ultimates, they're going to be able to full hold. They just have Seal of Explorer on this hand.
And we've seen them do it before, actually unsuccessfully. Last time we saw the stagger come through, it was Vasta taking it at the end of the day, but the ultimates, they've got this double shield figured out. I am convinced of it. The movement, the rotations, everything was perfect from them there, how they dealt with the dive. Now Vasta, I think the onus is on them. They need to turn this around. They need to show us either a different look or a different composition, because that needs to be an extremely short hold. And you and I saw this earlier on in the week. We saw a full hold on Route 66 into the fuller hold to beat them, but that is an extremely high bar to reach for Vasta to try and get the win.
32 heroes in Overwatch. You can have your absolute pick of the lot, and we only really got to see 6 heroes coming out from Vasta. And again and again and again, they go for this play. They try to set Aegis to come in with this massive big old blade that immediately wins you that fight, wins you point A on itself. But it takes so long to set up. The blade itself doesn't take long to build up with the amount of damage again you can output right about now. But you don't want to just come in with that blade when you're going into that double shielding. You need to burn out a lot of utility from the other side, and that means investing a primal, investing in nano, investing all of these ultimates. So when the blade falls through, you don't just lose one ultimate, you lose so many, and you just can't quite recover when it comes to that long haul of ultimate attrition.
Well, Vasta, you've got a lot on your board. You have the ultimates at game point. That is the one thing you have going for you right now in this composition. Again, is looking to not give them any space. It's the same as what we saw in the previous match, actually going for the full hold. It got too aggressive last time. This time the wall just goes straight on the spawn. They have a good bit of space to work with. Monkmutta drops extremely low. Immortality field forced out. Julo with the charge catches everybody. And the Reinhardt gets a ton of value. Now, though, is the true test, Mox, when they know what's going on.
When you just get out. Honestly, you've managed to just charge up Yulo before the shatter. Abs is going to be close to that coalescence. You're winning the ultimate duel, but right now you can get punished so easily, and we know the payload, it does not have to move far through A. If you lose this fight, you have one other fight afterwards.
Oh, they're getting aggressive again. They actually have a really good position. Immortality field's been forced out. The Orisa under so much pressure, but Kassar being forced back. That ultimate advantage that you mentioned is coming in, but it's having to be used for heals because the attack line's being dove. Antigone, though, goes down. No off-tank now to peel away that Reinhardt. No accretion. There is nothing in Julo's way. All he has to do is just get around this application matrix. He's just going to go straight on through with the fire strike.
The ultimate should have just kept a hold of that amplification matrix. What you need to do is just bank up ultimates, cash out them in one massive big fight, because Vasta are forced, if they want to have this really aggressive hold, to put in ultimates of their own to win this fight in their favor.
And Kassar, he's going to use that aggressive ultimate just like you wanted him to, and he's found the value with it, just enough to crack open the spawn. 2:42 on the clock, and they don't have that far to go.
But Vasta have the win condition. They've got Sona with this Blizzard. The one thing you have to worry about is the Sigma. Kinetic Grasp. If Antigen, he was able to eat the Pulse Bomb the first time around, if he's able to eat the Blizzard, that's absolutely huge for the ultimate. Because VASTA's next fight all hinges on that ultimate being able to connect with the ground. Aegis is going to have that Death Loss and you can come through with the follow-up. You just have to be able to get the CC locked up in place first.
VASTA have already gained a ton of space, so they're not going to have to deal with that CC if they can just close this gap, though. The ultimate's using the high ground perfectly right now to avoid any of that. Monk Mud as Bob, though, takes down Crisis early. Another one down onto Julo and Mox. I can feel it. I can feel the map 3 coming along.
The Lucia gets taken down before he can Sound Barrier, and now VASTA are forced into the position where they don't have the sustain, where they have to use those ultimates in that panic frenzy. And it's going to be a panic frenzy if any of them are even going to be able to contest this payload.
I mean, they'll try their damnedest. Julo's in on the ball. It did a ton of work in the previous, but absolutely not. Nope, the ultimates come in, and they're giving us a real show right now. 1-1, the ultimates in VASTA. We're going to map 3, and I think this has been an extremely good series so far. We've seen both of the teams adapt. This is them playing at their top level. This is both of them being forced into places they're uncomfortable and having to figure it out, and they absolutely have.
Yeah, but VASTA was so strong on that dive. And now we're headed off onto that map 3, which will be Anubis. We know how strong dive can be on that map. We know how much the ultimates struggle to deal with it on Lijiang. So it's not on Lijiang, on Busan. So it's going to be a matter of which the ultimates is going to actually show up to this third map. Is it going to be the team that struggled so hard to deal with it that first time around, or is it going to be the team that had it all figured out the second time around, when they were able to deal with the Genji, when they were able to deal with the Winston? Because Anubis is a lot more punishing. As soon as you slip away from that high ground, you lose that presence on the point, you lose the ability to shut out the other team, and they will yank it from you, and they will use it to snowball their way onto point B.
And there's one thing that we need to remember is a possibility on this map, right? The Mei is obviously extremely strong on Temple of Anubis, but there's a little bit of a pocket pick. The Junkrat can be so potent, not only just for Temple of Anubis, but also shutting down the dives. You run something like an Ashe Junkrat, you can just get tons of damage through, and I could see VASTA really struggling against a composition like that if the ultimates choose to throw it out.
I mean, it's just the tear your hair out situation for a backlane, isn't it? Because you are constantly pumping out so much healing, and that is the trade-off. When you are on a composition that's taking so much spam damage and you're pumping out that much healing, you are always going to have amplification matrix online, and that's the danger that the defenders have to worry about. When amplification matrix gets dropped, you have to give up ground, you have to scatter, because you can't risk losing that main tank, you can't risk losing one of your shields, otherwise you just get absolutely overwhelmed by the rest of the team who sees their opportunity. The plus side for the spam damage composition is you'll always have a Bob, you'll always have a Junkrat tire. And while those aren't necessarily going to be ultimates that win you the fight when it comes to picks, they do burn out Immortality Field, they do burn out Sleep Darts, a lot of really big cooldowns just channeled in to making sure that they find absolutely nothing, which you can then capitalize on in that massive long fight when it stretches in, when we see the superchargers come down and the Orisas go for that sort of brawl fight, where they just try and make it last and last and last and last, all the while superchargers is chugging along and they got a little bit of a higher chance of getting a kill.
Well, we've talked about the ways that we think the ultimates can bring themselves into this game, but now I want to ask you if there is a single win condition for VASTA, especially after watching that previous map when they struggled to get anything on the board. What do you think is going to break open the ultimates, assuming they play the same?
Adaption. If you're VASTA, we saw that they really stubbornly stuck with that same composition. And that's just not going to cut it right now, because we've seen the ultimates, they've got that dive figured out. Right, that second time around, it was an absolute cakewalk for those guys. And so you need to find something that isn't just this big old play of set Aegis up for a killer blade and hope everything falls into place. Any other win condition that isn't this nano blade is going to come up absolutely huge for these guys. But looking at what they've locked into, I'm fearful, though. Aegis is still on that Genji, Abs is still on that Ana. So you're going to have to go for a very aggressive dive, but worse, your backline is going to be so fractured when it comes to that ultimate economy, when it comes to that chicken gameplay that we're seeing, because you've got nothing, you've got no immortality field to throw behind you to cower and hide behind.
Yeah, it could be a really rough matchup here for VASTA, but I think the biggest thing with Dive and the nicest thing about Dive in this meta is that you can win fights, you can get those picks, you can do that without ultimates, right? You lose the first fight and it gets a little bit harder because the other team will have those things, but generally speaking, you're the one being proactive pretty much every single fight. We've seen Julo come in and find picks regardless of what the ultimates have, so I think if they can do that successfully, find that maybe even in the first fight, then we're looking at them steamrolling through B. Any other way, I see them maybe getting through A and then struggling a good bit on B, but so much of this is going to be decided early on because like you said, that ultimate economy is a very scary proposition.
I mean, it's the defense as well. They're in the green. We're already seeing the ultimate's going to be on the attacking side, and defensive dive is a lot harder to pull off. You need, honestly, to have that Batiste when you go for that defensive dive, because your backline is just going to be so constantly exposed. Every single time with the front line, your tanks, they're all going to be going for those picks. They're going to be knee-deep in the enemy's composition. And so all you have if your abs to rely on surviving is Crisis, with that tiny little Brigida shield and that very, very low health bar that it has. It may have gone back to 250, but that is just not going to be anything near what you need for when Kassar comes calling.
And Kassar will come calling alongside Monk Mutta. They can run all sorts of things. We know this team has some very strong DPS players that will go for that backline. We've seen the Ana struggle time and time again, but if they believe in their dive, then they better believe in it wholeheartedly, because it's the only thing they have to stop the ultimates from coming in.
But remember, the ultimates, they're going to be coming in from that attacking side, and Monk Matta's already on to the McCree, already making sure this dive is going to have such a hard time getting through that flashbang.
Yeah, it's an early dive, and it's what you expect, right? They're gonna back off. You go for this initial choke point to get a good bit of ultimate charge. Look at this Winston. Julo already at 40% to that primal. And on this second dive, he has to get primal before he goes down. Otherwise, VASTA's composition can and will absolutely crumble to the damage of the ultimates.
And Abs is just a little bit too far away from that nano as well, so the dive forced out. The ultimate's already on that high ground prime position for the attackers.
Now this gets dicey. They can't cower in these rooms forever. They cannot just give away this time. One of their players is bound to get picked off. Explorer dropped extremely low. Julo coming to peel for him, but it's Sana on the other end of the field getting picked off, and that is not what you want to be seeing right now. The Ultimates having a leisurely stroll through point A as VASTA effectively just sights on the side of the road.
You had to nano Eaters and hope that he's able to get the kills, hope that he's able to burn up towards this blade, and hope that it's enough to keep the Ultimates away.
He could, finds the first, finds the second, right when they need him. VASTA come a big Edis off the back of the nano, gets the blade up, and holds the point without giving up a single tick marks.
But the Ultimates kept a hold of a lot. Other than that amplification matrix, they've got a blade. Edis doing such a good job, though, of being able to get in, quickly pick Chucky Milk up, forcing the Ultimates to wait for that off support to come through, allowing VASTA the time to set up for this next dive. Explorer to come back in on that mech. Crisis has got the rally as well, so you have to be very careful about the timing when you pop it. You know the Ultimates are going to be trying encroaching with that super charger, but you can't pop rally until Antigons use that Sigma Flex, otherwise it will be gone.
Yeah, now without an immortality field, there's not much to save them when they get up here, and they don't necessarily have all that much time, right? They're coming in, the immortality field's already been burned, but your timer's getting that low. There's only 2 minutes on the clock for them, but they have a ton of ultimates. Starting off with the rally is definitely the right move for them here. Just get yourself on point so you can reposition and reset up that double shield bunker. Collapse on a Crisis is a beautiful move. Now Monk Mutta is just buying time with that Deadeye. They're using a lot of ultimates to get in here, and now I'm actually a little bit concerned about their B push, Moxie.
I think they'll have time, though, and so much it's going to be coming in with this amplification matrix. Honestly, you just drop that in main, and you allow everyone to cluster around it and shoot through it. And you should be immediately boosting Monk Mutta all the way up to 50%, even 60% if you're able to hit the shots. And Antigon's actually going to go onto the Diva, so you can defense matrix behind the entire team, make sure that no one gets taken out when they try to go for those ult charges. Because VASTA are coming in with a bomb, with a blade. You know if you're the ultimates, you just want to eco push. Try and build up ultimates of your own, when you're draining at the same time the ultimates from the enemy side.
Yeah, and there's gonna be an early blade here from Edis, and I love that they don't nano to say, hold on to just enough ultimates. And yeah, it was a dry push from the ultimates, but I don't think they got what they came for either.
They definitely did not, because you didn't have the time. As soon as Edis comes through, you're all just gone. And so the time spent walking up main, the time spent trying to get everyone into position, completely wasted. But if you're Edis, your blade's gone now. You can't hold that over. What you do have is Explorer's Bomb, and Henningsen's got a shield. It's only one shield, and it's on a cooldown. So if Explorer's able to count the clock, he should be able to come up huge.
Explorer waiting for the right opportunity to put this in. It could just be a matter of staggering. It could just be a matter of holding. But right now, VASTA have so many ultimates that it doesn't matter what the ultimates want to do. They have something to counter it. The Primal Rage now shoves everybody into the Mega Room, and that alone is going to be enough to end it.
And the ultimates invested Amplification Matrix. So Majed's actually going to go on to the Ana, just that you're going to have a little bit of a sleep dart, a little bit of that anti-nade as well, because that's another reason why Antigon's actually gone over to that pick, to try to eat the anti-nades that are coming out from Abs, which have been absolutely huge. As soon as that dive sees the team getting purple, they just jump. They sense that moment where they're just so weak, so vulnerable, and they go straight for it like a Labrador just scenting a steak.
And we've kind of come full circle here, Mox. We've got the blade back up from Edis. The ultimates have very little to counter. The Deadeye might be able to do something, might be able to send him into a panic, but the self-destruct is going to send him packing right on back through that choke point. Now Edis has more openings to come on in, but Kassar with the pulse bomb is going to beat him to the punch. Now the blade in, but immediately the halt to counter. All of his teammates now gone. The point beginning to take the way of the ultimates, and they found the opening they need. They have the ultimates to close this one out. They've got the Deadeye. They have the self-destruct. They have all the sustain they could ever ask for, and they've almost got 3 ticks for it.
And VASTA, they've swapped off the shield. They don't have anything to hide behind for that Deadeye, for this Diva Bomb.
Oh, Monk, you're going down. Bud drops low, but kept alive by the rest of his team. That third point bound to be had here. 152 on the clock, and they're feeling very good about that push. It got really dicey there for a second from the ultimates, but at the end of the day, you were absolutely right. What you said after point A, they're able to just charge up the ultimates and then come in with plenty of them.
And I mean, if you're the ultimates, you're feeling even more comfortable because your win condition for this team was that you went around the cycle first, that you were able to pin 2 points up on the board, because where VASTA struggled in those last maps, in those last engagements, was actually getting in, getting close enough, getting that position to just be able to stay in those spaces with this dive composition. Their attack is going to be so fragile, especially if they go for that dive play that we've been seeing really stubbornly coming out from these guys. So if you're the ultimates, you're feeling comfortable. You know that you were able to hold off that Genji with that Nano Blade on Route 66 when you were defending. And you know that you can do the exact same thing here, because look at what they're doing. This is Genji character squad calling in right here. Monk Matter onto that Ashe, so if the Genji comes closer, even the Winston, you can just coach gun him away. All the while, Kassar's turret is just slowly but surely chipping away at their health bars when they're in the air, making sure that they can't go for a swimmer jet, can't burn that Batiste out of his immortality field too early on.
And now looking at VASTA's side, this is something when the last time that we actually got to see them on this map, they did the exact same thing. Sauna on the Widowmaker, you're going to see him come out of spawn, the dive comes in, and Sauna waits all in main until the dive has completely gone by, and then tries to take an off angle and find a pick. Did not do so successfully last time, and you know what? Just off that, I don't think they want to run it again.
They have to be very careful though, because it's not Sauna that has to find value. First, what they have to do is deal with Kassar, because look at what the turret's placed. It's away from that double shield, and when the dive comes through, you can't just turn around and shoot it.
No, the ultimates have a lot of tools to deal with it though, and it's just a matter of setup right now for VASTA. Make sure your setup is good, make sure you're not just going to lose immediately to Coach Guns and some Winston packing. Explorer now in a world of hurt. Edis the first one to fall, and as much as you may have gotten up there, you've also found a world of hurt.
Monk's Matter is the one though that is just putting so much pain into VASTA's composition right now. Spamming damage in. 46% gets the Explorer out of the win. Kassar's turret back up on that rooftop, making it so hard for VASTA to successfully get this dive going on through, because you're going to be behind that double shield. You've got Abs who can't shoot through the Orisa, can't shoot through the Sigma shields, which means the dive has to be able to get that pick, has to be doing it immediately, and then getting out to get back to your support, staying alive.
Well, they're riding the struggle bus, but they want to get off early before it takes them all the way home here. The ultimates have stopped this again. The immortality field, though, being out is a major tool gone. VASTA can now back up, regroup, and try and go for that dive again, but half the team's going forward while half pulls back, and the ultimates are going to take this time to back off, wait for the re-engage with their amplification matrix, and allow Kassar to just take people down one by one.
Keep an eye on that Torbjorn as well. He's got Molten Core. He's not going to invest. It doesn't even have to, because VASTA have been pushed back. And there's someone behind enemy lines. Oh, Sauna. Think small, my friend. Think small forwards or fast forwards. Just try and get out. Reset as quickly as you can because what you're doing is denying the dive the chance to come in for this next fight properly. What you've done is buy Kassar the time to get this Molten Core online, so even when Edith comes on with this blade, you just hurt. You play the floor as lava, and there's absolutely nothing the Genji can do. He won't be able to walk over it.
And he uses it just a touch early, because now there's just a free invite for Nanoblade to come in. He's just going to be more than happy to just walk on over, slice up Hennizen into nice little bits, but he doesn't find that much value at the end of the day. Instead, it's Monkmuta's Bob that completely zoned him away, making him use the Reflect and making him waste such a key ability.
And now both of these teams, they've only got the rally available, but when a dive's only got a rally available, it's so fragile. Because you don't have the ultimates, you don't have that win condition. It takes time to get the picks, it takes time to chip away at at these health bars. Whereas you look at the ultimates and you've got that Tourbillon, you've got that Tracer, that Batiste, so much power, so much sustainability with that immortality field on your side that the dive just does not have. And Aegis is actually onto the Sombra, going to be trying to hack some Majed, but it's going to be extremely hard to let that one go through with all of the peel that's available for the backline.
Things are getting very dicey right now for Vasta. You've got a minute on the clock. You're getting sent home without a win. Coming in, the Ultimates looking to take that chance away from them, getting very aggressive with their rally. You know what? I love this push. So much CC being thrown the way of Vasta. How does it feel to be dove on? The double shield coming in and playing a little bit of copycat and doing so beautifully as the tanks and the supports of Vasta cower in the backline. 40 seconds to take down the clock and so to their hopes.
They got 2 ticks, but it's not enough. And now with 30 seconds on the clock, Vasta looking on the sidelines. They've got Explorer on the Sigma, so Small Mercy Antagon might not be able to pick anyone up with this bomb, because it will be this overtime fight where it comes out, and that's when bombs hit the hardest, when it's the frenzy fight, or when your comms are just an absolute madhouse and you don't have that communication, you don't have everyone hiding behind your shield. That's when this can come up huge and finish off the fight for ultimates.
3 seconds on the clock. Are they even going to get a touch? And Julo, you got to go fast, man. Oh my god, that was close. Now the Tracer has to get in for the follow-up. Sana is going to be the real way into this fight. That Pulse Bomb is the only thing that can clutch it out. Lands down on an Antigon, but they're healed up just enough. And the Immortality Field will save their life. They're managing to get a couple members in to work on self-destruct. Over won't find much of anything from the Ultimates. We're slowly getting separated. Vasta, they're pulling back. It's like it's map 1 all over again. The Ultimates, they're going to have PTSD after this one. It's the same exact thing, the same exact way they lost. Vasta have come in and they're taking the point.
And now they can go forward onto point B, because Yulo is going to have the snowball potential, right? He's got those Hammond mines, you can just roll on over, drop it all through. That buys you time to set Edis up for the duplication of all duplications. And you can do it for the rally onto Chocomilk, you can do it onto Henningsen, so you've got that supercharger to give all of your team that extra kick and allow someone to split up to this pulse bomb. There's real potential that we see Vasta walking away with 2 points in Anubis.
Absolutely, Jules coming in with the mines as well. A duplication onto the Sigma. ES drops extremely low though. You want to be at full health when you go for that Gravitic Flux. And trying to get it up on time is already a bit of a problem in and of itself. 95%, 97. Here it is. Catches just 2 members, but a great accretion from Antigon. Stops it right in its tracks. Vasta though, deciding now is the time to dive. Explorer comes in and hits an accretion of his own. Monkmutta takes Edis out of the sky. Monkmutta, he's doing what he does best. 1, 2, 3. Down go Vasta. 2 on the clock. And they were feeling solid about that push, but they're feeling a little bit more unsure right now.
Oh, they are still going to try and go for a little bit of a contest, but there we go. Sona and Yulo both falling, and Vasta pushed back yet again. Ultimate's going to be having some really nice ultimates to work with as well. You've got Monkmata with that Deadeye. You don't necessarily need to use it for zoning, because Yulo is going to be there on the Hammond, constantly harassing, constantly without a shield to hide behind away from that Sigma. You can get a really juicy early pick to immediately swing the fight in your favor with that ability alone.
The really dangerous push Kassar though. The Pulse Bomb doesn't find much of anything. However, the mines come in and completely separate away Antigon. He is far, far from home and should be getting punished for that one shortly. He just finishes him off. In the meantime, it's Sana farming your backline with Julo. The Ultimates, they've been picked apart. This double shield barely even looking like one at this point. Henningsen doing a little dance to try and stay alive, but Vasta, they've given themselves an opening with 1 minute on the clock. They're looking to take B. They just have to take care of these staggers, Mox.
The Sagas are going to be coming through though. Monk Matter onto the Mei. You're just going to be able to wall yourself up in a corner. Keep this point in your favor for just a little bit longer, but VASTA, they've got the manpower, they've got the ultimates. Pretty soon Esports going to be coming into that Sigma Flux, and there is nothing that Lucio can do if he gets picked up into the air and plonks upon that ground.
48 seconds on the clock, and remember, they do not want to stagger all the way into overtime here. Explorer needs to end this. The Gravitic Flux lands. The kills are finally coming through, but the Wrecking Ball is still alive. Henningsen goes down, but they're doing such a good job of staggering the ultimates, waiting patiently. Now the Doomfist. This gives them a way in this fight. You can take down one member at a time. Use this rally to buy at least a little bit more to get the Lucio in before anything happens. Dragon Blade used. Will it catch out Surmaj? Yes, just barely, but Henningsen's coming in. How long can the ultimates do this for?
Well, pretty much just about then. Henningsen goes down, and we said that VASTA had a shot at picking up 2 points of Anubis, and by golly did they prove us right. But it's going to be real tough for this team to pick up that first point on Anubis A, because they struggled, dude. They struggled, and the dive was only successful after we had such a sloppy fight of a war of attrition where one side would use an ability, another side would use an ability, someone would go down, the fight wouldn't finish, it would just drag on, those cooldowns would come back, another pick would be taken. And if you're VASTA, you're looking at that clock. You're looking at the 1 minute that you've got to work with, and you were remembering that you needed those ultimates, that you needed that power behind you to actually get that dive successfully onto point. And you're doing exactly what we're looking at right now. You're not coming out with dive because the ultimates have figured out the way to completely dismantle it by running this Torbjorn, by running this Ashe. You'd just be taking so much poke damage before you even got to the point. You would have so little in the way of ultimate economy, and Monk Matter and Kissar would already have theirs online.
Even so, though, VASTA, it may not be the exact dive, but they're still coming in with the composition that we saw earlier on Route 66. And I don't think it's going to succeed against the Torbjorn Ashe. That is so much damage coming at Reinhardt. He is not going to be allowed to swing his hammer all that much, but regardless, they need to get in and get in fast. They've only got a minute to prove something on point A.
Well, that's why you've got Crisis on the Lucio and Sona on this Mei. I like this. You've got that third shield to allow Yellow to close the distance, to actually be of use in this fight without going down early.
Oh, they're going for the ticks. They're trying to get as much for free as they can. Force anything to play aggressive. Julo drops low here, but the pressure. Oh, Explorer, he kills himself with his own accretion. Ida's going to be the next to follow, and now, slowly but surely, VASTA are going to go by the wayside. 30 seconds on the clock. Mox, they barely even have time for one more push, if any.
But one tick picked up, and Abs is going to be coming in with this Coalescence. If you're able to get that touch, if you're able to keep it staggered out, you will have just the slightest bit more sustain, but it's got to be so quickly. Already we're seeing the slots coming through. Sona onto the Tracer, Ida's onto the Sombra, and Yellow onto the Hammer. You're going to be without a shield, and you're going to be so vulnerable when Monk Matter hits his ultimate.
It's crunch time for VASTA. They need to start finding these kills. They need to get him with this Coalescence. Is the Sombra there to touch point? Edis absolutely will. Kissar goes down, though, to the turret. Now the Gravitic Flux could end it all here. Catches nobody, though, as Sana finds one more. Antigon slowly finding their way back into this one, though. Both tanks still alive for the ultimate. Thus, the double shield stands. The ultimate onto the point to make sure nobody's touching the floor is definitely lava right now. VASTA, they're going to get one tick, but that is absolutely all they have to defend against the ultimates.
VASTA's chances at getting just a little bit more on A completely dwindled when Edis goes down on that Sombra. Because you don't necessarily swap onto the Sombra to go for that really quick overtime contest. She does run fast when she's in stealth mode, sure, she does her cross-country exercises. But the main value that you would have found with her was denying the other team's abilities, denying their ultimate. If you'd been able to take out Baptiste, if you'd been able to hack him, not by getting a kill, denying Immortality Field, but with that just one little bit of a cooldown, then you would have had such a better chance. If you'd been able to get the hack onto Monk Matter, then you would have denied the Bob, Kissar would have been denied the Molten Core. Any of those players the Sombra could have gone towards and managed to find a whole amount of value, but she falls before the hack can come through, and VASTA fall very shortly afterwards. Now they've got to contest. Now they can't afford to lose a single fight, and this is the composition that they need to do it with. Spam damage. You have to get this first pick going in your favor. Otherwise, the ultimates can just play exactly how we saw VASTA go. In fact, Kissar on this Tracer makes me think they're going to go for that. They're going to try and set up a point presence, force VASTA to turn the spam composition around to deal with the Tracer. All the while, the double shielding makes its way onto point and just sets up shop.
Well, it only takes one to get there right about now if you're the Ultimates. VASTA are staring down in the face of a very, very bad way to go. And I love the composition. Like you said, the spam damage is definitely a good option for them. I'm curious to see how well the Ultimates can actually execute, though, with Kassar not being with their team as much as usual. This Tracer is waiting in spawn. Swaps over to a Genji right now. This is a lot of time being wasted.
But you've got the time to play around with 2 minutes and 10 seconds, and all the while you're taking damage, allowing Swimajet to build up to the amplification matrix!
Oh, that's a brutal pick from Edis. The dynamite over top and more damage to be had. Halt. No, just barely able to not catch one more. But VASTA set themselves up very nice, starting to rip away at this clock.
But the Ultimates, they're going to be coming into this amplification matrix first. And all of the high ground control that VASTA has, allowing for them to get the spam damage going through. As soon as the amplification matrix comes out, you've got to give up that space because you can't afford to lose a single player in this defense.
Amateurs is still a good while away, though. 60% is definitely not quite there for them yet. I'm very nervous for Explore, but what a good halt to pull in the tank line of VASTA, take them off this high ground, take away a lot of those resources. Ultimates are slowly but surely gaining ground, but slowly is not the name of the game right now. You need to be doing things, and you need to be doing them now. Monk Butta's combo to Dynamite beautifully, though, on everything, and oh my god, he's done what he does every single time. The Ultimates call upon their DPS god to clutch it out when they need it. One tick over, and that's it. The Ultimates end the series 2-1.
Okay, not to take away from the fact that Monk Matter was an absolute god at hitting those shots, but the Ultimates, the way that they approached that fight was a pure spark of genius. They engage on the high ground, they go for the side room, they take so much spam damage that the Batiste is very, very close to the amplification matrix. And what did they do? They don't go for the point, no. They bait VASTA into coming to them. And you don't have that Lucio, so when that amplification matrix comes down, there's no disengagement tool, and they can't get to the low ground because they're stuck on the high ground, so open, so vulnerable, taking all of the damage. They lose the Batiste as well, so Immortality Field's completely gone, and all of the damage coming through that window, it's permanent.
I mean, what a good series to end the day, though. VASTA and the Ultimates came out. And I think VASTA, even in that final match, we saw them struggle on map 2. Map 3, they came out. That was a much better showing. Their roll from point A into point B was amazing. Their ability and their ultimate economy was significantly better than it was in previous maps. The Ultimates, their adaptation was fantastic. I love the Torbjorn. I love Monk Muta's Ashe. I love running the Ashe and the Torbjorn. You get so much damage out of it. And this, I think, this is what we wanted from this match. Both of these teams are out. They're done. They were playing for pride, and while the Ultimates came away with the win, and very clearly that, I think VASTA, they made a really solid name for themselves today.
I mean, we saw how strong they were in the opening maps when they ran that dive, and we saw that the Ultimates struggled really to deal with that for quite a long time. And so VASTA are a very strong team in their own right. It's just today the Ultimates were able to adapt just a little bit better. And now in Overwatch, it is all about adapting to what the team comes at you with, being able to outplay what they put on the table, especially when it's something like Dive, where you just have to be able to negate it, otherwise it will just tear your composition to absolute shred.
Well, it's a great game, but now, ladies and gentlemen, we do get to have a little bit of a winner's interview here with Antigon from the Ultimates, and hear a little bit from him about how he feels in the matchup. All right, and we're back, ladies and gents. We've got Antigon with us. Antigon, I want to ask you first. That was a hard-fought series. How's your blood pressure right now?
I'm a bit nervous. I mean, not nervous, but I'm excited as well. It was a good game. Very good game.
Definitely. It was a fantastic game, and you guys came out with a number of adaptations during that match, including the Torbjorn, the Ashe. The Widowmaker struggled initially, but what do you think was the most important change over the course of the series to finding that success that you found?
I mean, we were thrown off course because they played a lot of dive. We've never seen a team play dive a lot. When we weren't sure, like we were getting value out of Ashe, but we tried to get Creed, we tried to go Widow in the beginning, but then we just stuck to our what we practiced, which is Genji Ash, and it worked. So yeah.
Quick
New
question. We saw that VASTA had very obviously watched a couple of your VODs back because they knew exactly how you wanted to play Monk Meta on that Widow on the first map of Busan. Did you do anything very specific to prepare against your matchup on VASTA, or was it just the usual scrims?
Well, we just we didn't really want to go into their playstyle, so we didn't really we just played our own thing, you know. They could watch our VODs and everything, but we still played like we always play. So we didn't really change anything, even though we could have known that they watched our VODs or anything. We just played like we play.
That's actually, I love the mindset. You're forcing them to play at your tempo, and they couldn't keep up. That second and third match, you guys just took such a strong hold on the game, able to keep it at a death grip. Now, is there any one player on the team that you really want to hand it to, that you want to give some serious credit to, or anybody at home that you want to shout out?
I'd say Henningsen. He got some nasty pulls, and he kept the team in a good mindset. He deserves a lot more credit than he gets.
I mean, it's not easy. In-game leading, especially as main tank, keeping your head in it, especially in that long of a series, right? You're going the full distance, full on. Props to Henningsen, and props to you, man. You played some seriously good Overwatch. Thank you so much, though, for popping in for a quick little interview.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, man. Take it easy and enjoy your victory. Ladies and gentlemen, though, as for us, that is all that we have for EMEA Contenders Trials for the day. Make sure, though, to tune in tomorrow. Make sure to support Tier 2. Same time, same exact place. You'll be catching all the action here on Monkey Bubble, and you won't want to miss a bit of it. From Moxie and I, though, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.